What has happened to the Red Bulls? I mean, seriously, what has happened to the Red Bulls? Both Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez DNF out of the first race here in 2022 at Bahrain, clearly to some sort of issue. Max was complaining about power steering, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. I mean, that's literally what he was on the radio about, telling his mechanic how hard it was, his engineers, how hard it was for him to actually steer that car into some of the corners and turns. And now Sergio Perez as well DNF'd. He lost power on the back straight and also fell out of the race. So what seemed like it was going to be pretty promising for the Red Bulls, it turns to absolute disaster. We all heard Max Verstappen on the radio, and I don't think any of us have really heard Max to that extent. It was weird to hear Max with that type of tone and response to what was happening. I think Max has always been a pretty solid driver, keeping himself very composed even when things were happening. Of course, Max is a driver with a personality with a little bit more, on his plate than others, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it is. I think it's literally a part of Max's personality, hence why he was able to win the 2021 Drivers' Championship. But it almost sounded like he was on the brink of tears. And I mean, we've heard that from obviously other drivers on the grid. It's not like it's the first time, but I'm just saying it's unusual to hear that type of tone and response from Max Verstappen of all people. So I have no idea what's going on with the Red Bulls. Hopefully they get that figured out. I'm sure obviously they will, but it's so unusual to see two Red Bulls in the closing stages of the race both have some sort of reliability issue that puts them both out of the race. They both DNF'd within the last 6 laps of the race. Pierre Gasly's AlphaTauri caught fire, which caused, the safety car. And then not even a couple of laps later, the Red Bulls also have an issue where they're forced to retire. So 3 cars with Red Bull engines in them essentially were forced to retire in this first race of the season. That is pretty worrying, I think, for the Red Bulls. Like I said, I'm sure they'll get it together, but whatever that is, you obviously wouldn't want that happening in every race, or at least important races throughout the regular season. And both the Red Bulls finishing with no points at all. It's crazy. I mean, Max not having any points for the Drivers' Championship, Sergio as well. But the fact that as a constructor, the Red Bulls will have 0 points here to start the season, we're going to get a huge title fight. Clearly, Charles Leclerc is there on par and potentially becoming a 2022 maybe world champion this year, depending on how the rest of the season goes. I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying clearly that Ferrari has the best package of any cars on the grid, and Charles is in a prime spot to challenge for the Drivers' Championship, now leading ahead with 25 points. This season is going to be absolutely crazy. I love seeing the cars being able to follow each other. I'll talk about that in other videos, but my goodness, what's going on with the Red Bulls? You guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're new, make sure to subscribe here for weekly Formula One content. I will be covering every single race throughout the remainder of this season going forward, so make sure you guys tune into that. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you guys today, but we'll see you all later. Goodbye.